Senator Sampson.
Good morning, Madam Chairman. Thank you very much. Good morning, Mr. Comptroller. Can you hear me okay?
I can. Good morning, Senator.
Excellent. Long time no see. This brings me back to when we were both on the insurance committee. We used to duke it out on a number of different items, and we worked very well together on some other stuff as well.
Yes.
It's no secret that I'm no fan of my CT savings, but I'll try and not treat you like a hostile witness, just the same, and be respectful. You kind of opened by talking about how the program is going, mentioning that there's around 30,000 people currently enrolled. Am I correct in that when we had this conversation a year ago, it was around 25,000 people? Is that right?
I don't remember the exact number, Senator, but that does sound about right.
Right. That's the number that was in your testimony from last time. That's why where I got that from. So really, over the last year, we've picked up 5,000 people. I know that the original law passed back in 2016, but we really didn't get rolling on this till 2022. But it seems like it's taking a while to get up and running. How many potentially eligible employees would there be in the state of Connecticut?
I think that's a question that we sometimes have trouble answering, Senator, in the sense that that number often changes, right? New businesses start every day in the state. And we do our best to estimate them, and we get information from the Department of Labor that allows us to try to pinpoint what that number is. Jess, I'll defer to her if she has a specific number. But just to your initial point, Senator, what I would say is, there is no compliance penalty right now for this, and we don't send letters to employers reminding them they have to comply with this because there's no compliance penalty. A lot of people that I talk to when I go on these business walks will say, oh, you know what? I heard something about that, or I read something about that somewhere. And they sign up for it because I show up at their business with a mayor or a first selectman or a senator, and it reminds them. These business owners are very, very busy. They've got a lot of things to do. And we think that with more communication from our office, you would see more people signing up and them making the decision to do this because there was enhanced communication towards them for that.
Well, I appreciate the answer. I didn't know if you were going to have your colleague try and give me a better answer to that question, which she can certainly jump in if there is one. But my numbers show there's around 2 million employees in the state of Connecticut. Now, I understand that, a lot of those folks work for businesses that may already have a plan. But I guess what I'm asking is, this can't possibly be what was envisioned. 25 or 30,000 employees in a state of 3.5 million people with 2 million employees. It just can't be. There had to be some projection when this was originally, envisioned. Can you give me any insight into that? I mean, what's the goal? How many people do you believe we could get into the plan that would make it actually worthwhile? Because I think at this point, I think the expenses and cost of just maintaining and managing something for a relatively small population doesn't make a lot of sense.
What I would say the goal is, and I was not the person who designed this, right? Because in 2016, I had no designs on ever being the comptroller. My life took a turn in that way. But so I wasn't there to originally propose this. But what I would say is the intent of it is to make sure that every person in the state of Connecticut has access to a retirement plan. And the mechanism that happens is either that the business owner has to declare that they have a plan or sign up for a private plan, or they need to offer their employees this free plan. And so one thing that I think is not quantifiable and that we did not testify about today are how many people out there who got a letter from me saying you have those two choices, then decided to say, hey, I don't want the government to do this. I'm going to go out and get my own plan and enroll my employees in that. That has definitely happened. And anecdotally, that happens often when I do these walks. People say, hey, I heard about your thing. It wasn't for me. I got my own plan and now my employees are on it. To me, that's great. I don't care whether they're on my plan or a Fidelity plan or somebody else's plan. I just want them to have retirement access. And I think while the number may seem small to you, Senator, these 30,000 people are now saving for retirement, and the downstream effects of people having money at the end of their life benefits all of us. So do I wish there were more people that were enrolled in it? Yes. Do I believe there's a lot more that we can enroll? Yes. Do I believe there's people who have been enrolled in other plans because their business owner didn't want to enroll in mine? Yes. But at the end of the day, I think what we're doing is working and worth it for the state, and we're proud of that work. But I don't know the total ceiling that we will hit, but I think we should keep trying to hit as many people as we can for the overall well-being of our state.
Thank you very much for that response, Mr. Comptroller. And again, I don't want to get into the philosophical debate with you. I more or less want to save that for the floor of the Senate with my esteemed colleague, Madam Chairman. Because your comments give me a bit of a struggle because I want to argue with you, and I don't want to use this opportunity for that purpose. I mean, the fact of the matter is, we all want to see people who are successful. We want to see people who have a decent retirement. The fact is that our differences stem from the fact that I don't believe it's the role of the state government to be engaging in this activity. I think that there are private entities out there that effectively the state is now competing with to deliver these products. And I think every citizen in the state knows that they exist. It's the language that is sometimes used in these discussions that frustrates me more than anything. I mean, you said that you want to make sure everyone has access to a retirement plan. Well, everyone has access to a retirement plan with or without My CT Savings. You don't need that to exist. Everyone can go get a retirement plan now. And it sounds to me like, and I'll give you one more shot at this answer, which is you didn't, and I mean very respectfully, you didn't answer my question about how many people could possibly be enrolled, or what the prediction or projection was when this was rolled out. And if those numbers don't exist, then what are we doing here? How did this program ever come to be? If no one said, there's 300,000 people that is our target for the state of Connecticut that we could maybe enroll because those people do not have an employer sponsored plan. That information should be the immediate first bit of conversation when you're discussing about the viability of such a program. So any information you want to offer about that, I'll give you another shot at sharing that.
And I'll turn it over, Senator, in a second, just to give you that answer. But let me just say, and again, I respect you tremendously, as you know, and we have served really well together. So I don't mean to be adversarial to you either. But I do want to just say, while it's true that everybody in the state can technically go and access this, I can tell you firsthand that that is not knowledge that everybody in the state knows. And that comes from, all of us come from different walks of life. I had friends in high school and college that's father took them down to the local bank at 18 and signed them up for a retirement plan. That was not the experience for me. Neither of my parents went to college. Neither of my parents had any financial literacy. They did the best they could, but had no idea about any of this stuff. And so while it's true that there's always information out there that any of us can get at any time, the literacy is not always there. And when this thing is offered to you by your employer, it is tremendously easier and more accessible to a lot of people in our state. And they're more comfortable because it's coming from their boss that they like, and their employees and their coworkers are part of this thing that gives them the ability to be, in this and in it with people that they know and trust. Whereas it's a little bit daunting sometimes for somebody who has no financial literacy and no background in this to walk into a bank and feel comfortable knowing what it is that they might do. So that's just the answer to that. The answer to your overall question, Senator, I've just been told by Jess, is 100,000 people is what we believe that are able to, if everybody was to be compliant in this, and that we were able to work with every business to make sure they give that choice, that we believe 100,000 is the answer to the question that I think you're asking, Senator.
Thank you very much, Mr. Comptroller. No, that's a real number. I still think it's a surprisingly and shockingly low number. Do we have any information about what the costs of the startup of the program and with the carrying costs, I mean, to manage it every year, how many people are actually employed to manage the current 30,000 people?
We have 3 full-time employees. And Jess, can you please speak to the budget?
Hello, Jessica Muirhead, for the record, from the Office of the State Comptroller. Good morning, Senator. For the budget, the cost for personnel is about $500,000 a year, and the cost for the operational budget is around. We've been allocated $200,000, but have typically spent in the last year or so less than that, so around $150,000.
Thank you very much, Miss. I didn't catch your title. I'm sorry. I don't want to be.
Sorry. I'm the executive director of the program, Senator. I apologize. I did not say that.
No, it's quite all right. And thank you very much for filling me in. And I should be operating through the chair, and I apologize to Madam Chairman for not doing so.
In an effort to move this hearing along, Senator Sampson, I've been very loose about that. So thank you, though, for acknowledging it.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Chairman. So just doing a little bit of quick math, I mean, that's $700,000 of state taxpayer dollars being expended to provide a product to 30,000 individual employees in the state that exists in the private sector, that it wouldn't cost taxpayers 1 red cent to go ahead and provide. And I absolutely believe it would be a superior product if it was achieved through a private entity with the knowledge, experience, and numerous products that are available. This conversation, I just find it, one of these examples of, the government having this great idea of, we're going to help people, except I don't think we're helping people. And now it looks like the solution to the fact that we've only got 30,000 of our potential 100,000 people is not a public service announcement, which would make sense if we speak to the comptroller's concern over, the literacy of the average person on the street and their awareness of this thing. Instead, we're going to penalize them. We're going to have penalties to force people to participate. So that's a little bit frustrating. So, Mr. Comptroller, so you mentioned that this program wasn't started by you, but it has become your project as the Comptroller, and I understand that, and you're trying your best to carry it forward. But are these changes coming from your office, or is this being pushed from somewhere else? Is it coming from this committee or the governor's office, or are these changes really coming from your office?
Yeah, Senator, that's a good question. They're 100% coming from my office. And these are recommendations that we have made now for 3 sessions in a row to the legislature and this committee to get this done. I would love nothing more than to lead with public service announcement. But in terms of concern about cost of the program, unless you or your friends in the Appropriations Committee want to give us money for marketing, we're doing this at the grassroots level, and we're doing this, town by town, Main Street by Main Street. There really is no huge marketing budget here for us to be doing this. But these 4 changes are to make the program better. And to your point, Senator, we often, when discussing this proposal, end up discussing the merits of the underlying program, and I understand that. What I'm hoping that we can do, though, this year is really just acknowledge what I think you just acknowledged, which is that, I'm running this program, and I'm now doing the best I can to make this program a success. I believe in it, but the program is happening. It's going on right now. This bill is not about repealing the program. It's about trying to strengthen it. And that's what we're here to talk about today. And what I hope that we can work on together is to talk about what these specific changes would do, while acknowledging that I get that this program is not certainly for everybody.
Thank you very much for that answer. And through you, Madam Chairman, just to clarify, I wasn't suggesting that we spend money on a PSI in addition to the program. It was more of an instead of. $700,000 could be quite an information campaign about the availability of private retirement programs. So let's talk about the meat of the bill, which is what's really important, and probably will get me back off the naughty list from the chairman. This part of this has to do with changing the way the contributions are made. Are we changing in this proposed bill the minimum contribution, or does that stay the same? And maybe just lay out exactly what is changing through you, Madam Chairman.
Yeah, so on the particular piece that you're talking about, Senator Sampson, about the contributions, what this bill does is align our program with what the federal law and federal standard is. That was adopted back in 2022 by a law called the Secure Choice Act. And again, that just brings us in line with what other states have done. This law has not been changed in now almost 9 years from when it was first adopted. And in those intervening 9 years, we've had tons more states join. We've had federal regulation of these plans happen. And what we're trying to do is align our law with what the federal standards are. The federal standards are seeing contribution rates of 5 or 6 compared to where ours started at 3%. And so what we're trying to do is just, again, align with the times, because the law is now 9 years old and quite dated compared to the rest of the country, and what the federal standards adopted by, again, this bipartisan congressional act has done.
Thank you for that answer. And through you, Madam Chairman. Yeah, I went through the language of the bill that references the what I presume is the Secure Act language, that Code 414 language that's in there. I'm just curious, why refer to this federal language instead of just laying out those contribution limits in plain terms in the bill? It seems very confusing to me, and I'm not understanding what the issue is, because it seems to me that federal language exists for a separate purpose. It doesn't have a lot to do with our state-run program.
I think the answer, Senator, just quite simply is that we have been trying to get this passed for 3 years now, and it's a relatively, in my mind, modest change to this. To keep coming back and trying to pass, changes to this is something that would, in my mind, not be something that would happen. And so, if we can just align to federal standards, those federal standards may change, right? We have a new administration in Washington. We have a new Congress down there. That changes all the time. But if we just say, hey, our program will be compliant with federal standards, we don't have to change our law every time the law changes. We'll just always be in compliance with federal law.
Thank you. So am I to understand, through you, Madam Chairman, that these standards would apply to any retirement program, even a privately run one, for the amount of automatic contributions?
Yeah. So the law governs all of these plans, whether they're private or public. But this law, in our context, Senator, is only about saying that our plan has to align with federal law. We certainly welcome a broader law that says everyone's got to comply with it, but that's outside of my purview as the comptroller.
Understood. I appreciate that answer. So let me ask you just one more question through you, Madam Chairman, on this subject, which is, how does this handle folks that do not establish their withdrawal amount?
I'm not sure I understand the question, Senator, if you can rephrase that.
Yeah, it's a good. I'm trying to come up with the right words too. But when you go, this is an opt-out program, as we all understand, and that's one of my frustrations with it. But because it's an opt-out program, some folks are being opted in, and they may not be aware that they're opted in initially, and the amount that is going to be taken from them to go into the My CT Savings program has to be determined somewhere. And I'm just curious if that's in this language, if that's changing from the current underlying.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. So that's actually, just to clarify, Senator. So the account and the IRA is created for them, but they don't actually get money taken out of it until they determine what that is, and they make that choice and they speak to their employer about that. They can opt out before that happens, and they're notified about what that process is once the account is created for them, give them the opportunity to opt in or opt out of it. And so I don't think there's too many people out there, certainly none that I've ever had call my office and yell at me to say, wait a minute, you took money out of my check and I don't even know what this was. It's literally never happened to me. And I've been comptroller for almost, 2 years now.
Well, excellent. That's good to hear. I appreciate hearing that much anyway. This does, in fact, through you, Madam Chairman, this does lay out changes in the automatic contribution schedule, though, if I'm correct, so that it will increase year over year. What kind of notice goes to the person at that point?
Well, if this bill passes, then we certainly will make everybody that's in my CD savings right now and anybody who subsequently joins it apprised of the fact that we are in compliance with federal law. But we have not made any of that communication yet, nor developed that plan, because we're still just trying to pass this law. But I can promise you in this committee and the legislature that we will be sure to do that in accordance with the power that you would give us under this law.
Very good. Thank you for that. And through you, Madam Chairman, just a few more questions. I guess I have so many more questions about the actual contribution process and how it's laid out and how it intersects with this federal law. But I think that's a good topic for the floor of the Senate. I think it'll be enlightening. But let's talk about the penalties. You said that this a couple of times actually throughout our conversation that this update to the current law is necessary, and I think that the necessary piece that you're referring to is the penalties. You can certainly tell me if I'm wrong about that, but I think that the main issue we're having is that this program is not growing at the rate that was intended. We've only got 30,000 folks out of the potential 100,000, which to me seems like a ridiculously low number anyway. I don't know why we'd even engage in this program at the expense that we have now for such a relatively small part of the population. So is this the real focus of this thing? Is this the part that needs to get over the finish line? Is the penalties to induce people to participate? Through you, Madam Chairman.
I think it's important, Senator, and we've been trying to do it for a couple of years because I think it's important. And you and I respectfully have different ideologies, and I respect that and acknowledge that. But for me, I do believe that, compelling people to act sometimes requires compliance for things. That's the basic social contract that I think that we all live through, right? There's stop signs on roads, and if you blow through a stop sign, there's a penalty for you doing that. So we've put some basic framework in the social contract, and that's, in my mind, a good thing that we all adhere to. But we all want to make sure that the social contract is fair and modest, and that we can live within it. And that's why we did work in 2023 to come up with what I think are more rational penalties. I will not always be the comptroller of the state. Somebody could be elected to succeed me. That is fine to take small businesses to court. And they have that power, which I think is a very scary power to give to an elected official. So I'm asking you to take away a power that I have and replace it with one that I think is more common sense and more fair in the spirit of the social contract that I think all of us adhere to in our daily lives.
Thank you for that answer, Mr. Comptroller. There's so much there. I don't even know how I'm going to resist responding to all of it. Through you, Madam Chairman, I don't disagree. There's a social construct, and we have to have a set of laws that govern society. And stop signs are good because they prevent harm from coming to people, via automobile accidents and creating order. But the rest of our social contract established in this country is based in freedom, not compliance. Compliance is the social construct of fascism, not of a free society like ours. And you know, the conversation, just to be more direct and not get distracted by all that stuff, because I would love to debate you about our ideological differences, but that's for another day. You know, you're saying, you know, on one hand, you know, I would never take a small business to court, but on the other hand, you're saying I will fine them. And the fact of the matter is that's worse. You know, if taking someone to court gives them an opportunity to argue their point, to just fine them implies that they are guilty until proven innocent, which is the problem with the growth of the state. And that is the most vile part of the social construct that grows government and imposes its will on people. That's the difference in our ideology, I guess, is that your social construct is based on your idea of what people should do, and mine is based on protecting the right of other people to choose what they think they should do. I want to just skip over that and get right to the PCA piece, because this is something that is very near and dear to me. Some folks might recall that I was very involved in the battle back in the 2013, 14, 15 era when the state government was actively, and I shouldn't say the state government, I'd say the governor at the time, Governor Malloy, was actively engaged in attempting to force PCAs into an employee union. And really, in my view, just to collect dues, because they got almost no other benefit out of it. I'm confused by this provision, because are PCAs not already able to participate in this? Why do we need this additional section of this law? Through you, Madam Chairman.
So, Senator, under the current law, consumer employers who employ these PCAs do not meet the definition of a qualified employer under the program, meaning that they can't enroll their PCA or PCAs in My CD Savings. This amendment allows My CD Savings to be able to add all consumer employers and their PCAs into the program, so long as that PCA meets the requirement of a covered employee. Meaning, like, they're 19 years of age or older, they're providing services in Connecticut, and they're being employed for the minimum amount of time required.
Right. Thank you for that answer. And through you, Madam Chairman, it seems like the state wants to have it both ways. You know, the way this system works is that you have, you know, a patient, you know, maybe a wheelchair-bound disabled person who effectively is receiving a payment from the state via the Medicaid waiver program, but they don't actually get the money. They choose PCAs to take care of them, and they are effectively the employer in that particular case, which I think is where we're going with this. And so they employ the PCA, but the check from the state goes directly to the PCA. And that's how the state made this ridiculous argument to unionize them as if they were state employees, when they've never been state employees. They're employees of the patient. Here, I can understand us trying to revert that back to making the person in the wheelchair the employer, except now, aren't we telling that disabled person in the wheelchair that they are responsible for advising their employees and getting them enrolled in this program? Doesn't that seem a little ridiculous, through you, Madam Chairman?
The state will facilitate that, Senator Sampson, on behalf of the PCA employer.
Does the state facilitate that for other employers, through you, Madam Chairman?
I guess that would depend, Senator, on how you would classify that, but I think the answer is yes. The whole point of this program is that in order to not violate ERISA, the employer, you know, is not really facilitating this. We are doing the facilitation of that.
So there are no penalties for employers any longer for failing to have their folks enrolled?
Currently, as we just discussed in the last exchange, the only penalty that exists right now is my ability to take someone to court. So if the PCAs were added, but the compliance was not added, then in theory, I could take a PCA employer to court. But I've said I wouldn't do that. So there would be no penalty for them in this hypothetical, I think.
Understood. And through you, Madam Chairman, you mentioned, in your remarks about the PCAs, when you opened, you said that you were providing them the ability to choose to participate or choose not to participate. And I would just like to correct that, because they don't really have a choice to participate. They only have a choice not to participate. And that's a choice they don't have right now. And again, I want to correct you in the fact that anyone can go down the street and sign up at countless places to get a retirement plan through their employer, through their bank, online. I think most people have seen ads on television for Schwab or E-Trade or God knows what. And that's to me the frustrating part of this conversation, is that somehow we're doing this because people don't know better, and yet there's retirement programs have existed for decades, and I think you'd be hard pressed to find someone who doesn't know they exist. Now, they might not be actively pursuing one, but again, that is the desire of government to impose their view on what people should do, as opposed to letting them making their own decisions. It's like telling someone they have to have a savings account, whether they want one or not. I noticed that in the last version of this bill, there was an attempt to allow the Comptroller's office to maybe participate in running programs from other states, or make that type of pact or something like that. And that's missing from this one. Just curious why that is, through you, Madam Chairman.
Because, Senator, we realized through a ruling of the Attorney General that we have that power under the current law. And last fall, Rhode Island became the first state to join us in this. Their program will come online at some point in 2025. And the more states that we can work with, like Rhode Island, the lower the fees that our employees and our participants, rather, will see in their fee structure. And we will be able to better serve our own members as a result of that.
Very good. I appreciate that answer. I think that really has to do wrap up most of my questions. There's certainly a lot more to this conversation. We've had this debate for the last, I guess, going on 9 years now about the viability of this program. I want to say that I do absolutely respect you, Mr. Comptroller, and I enjoy our conversations. And this is one we disagree about. I wish that we were working on something together, that we could find a way to help the citizens of Connecticut in a way that we both I think is a positive move. And certainly, I want to get people to make sure they have a viable savings and a viable retirement going forward. I just don't think government force is the mechanism to do that. There are a lot more questions that I have on this thing, particularly with regard to your office. I remember asking on the Senate floor, whether or not you're required to be a securities broker, what access to products you're supposed to have, what kind of fees the Comptroller's office charges versus, entities in the private sector, expertise in investing. I mean, these are all topics that I think are extremely important if we're going to suggest to people that a state-run retirement program has an advantage over a private one, and I just don't see the benefit. And I certainly, after becoming aware of the limited number of people involved and the cost of the program's existence, this sounds like a good candidate for DOGE or maybe the new Government Oversight Committee, which I'm very pleased to be a part of. Again, I thank you for your time. That concludes my questions, Madam Chairman, and I look forward to our debate, down the road on this subject as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.